Today we are going to talk about how to clean your data when we don't have a data team. So that's the topic for today. Uh, we'll jump straight into it. I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if there are any issues. So this is our, I think, 8th session for Lunch and Learn. So it's a very consistent process or way we run it. So it's 30-minute session. I'll be walking you through the session and the topic. And after that, we'll have 15 minutes of open discussion. And I really encourage all of you to share your perspectives, your experiences. And that is one of the main purposes of this session, to hear from each of us who has joined the call. And then just want to sort of state clearly, this is a light and easy session. That means we are going to cover basic information, and my assumption is you are having a lunch while we are covering it. So if you are eating, if you want to be off camera, that's fine, no issues, but I'll encourage everyone to please join us for the last 15 minutes of open discussion. Take action. So anything that resonates, please take action, even if it's a minor thing. Uh, Everything is recorded, so the whole session and the slide deck, it is all recorded. We'll upload that on our website, so no one has to take any notes. And we'll jump into the introduction. So please, if you can, quickly cover your name. So please share your name and what you like to achieve from the session. Just we'll go quickly around the room, and if you can just quickly cover these two things. So I'll start with Cedric.
Hi everyone, my name is Cedric. I work for Gumala Aboriginal Corporation as a senior project coordinator. So I'd like to see how this session can help me with running a project of cleaning data without actually have a technical team.
Great, thank you, Cedric. Christopher.
Hi, my name's Chris Morrison. I work for a company called Delivering Outcomes Group as the managing director. We deal with a lot of our customers around all their data and stuff. We predominantly work on private data.
Thank you, Chris. I'll skip Harley yourself. We'll jump to Kieran.
Hi everyone, I'm Kieran. I'm interested in ERP preparation and pre-implementation, and particularly how you can shorten the time and the pain involved in data preparation. So I'm just interested in the topic. I've been through a number of projects over my career, and yeah, look, I feel there's opportunities that we miss by waiting too late with data preparation. So I'm interested in the topic and very interested to share with people who are here, well, within reach. It's nice to have a group to share challenges and get reasonable strategies together.
Thank you, Kieran. Nicholas.
Yeah, hi guys. Nicholas Meyer. I'm with consultancy Analytics. We specialize in data and analytics, and we talk to a lot of people about helping them with their data, but people a lot of times choose not to use our services, and so this is helping to understand if there's alternatives we can offer them, and also what are the problems that people are seeing, and so how can we make a better offer, basically.
Thank you, Nicholas. And Kunal. We cannot hear you, Kunal, if you are saying anything.
You may not have a mic.
Okay, Kunal, maybe later if you can share and introduce you with the rest of the team, I'll move on to the topic now. Maybe some issues with the mic and all. Okay, so let's jump into the topic and we start with a context. So the context is very simple. Imagine we are a client organization. So this is a perspective from a client who have started the ERP implementation and they get to hear about data migration. So while they started the implementation, vendor mentioned about data migration and their role and what are the expectations to migrate data from their existing systems to the new system, and they feel like it's too much, where to start. They feel like lost, overwhelmed, and don't know where to start. So that's the context. So it is the ERP implementation which has started. There has been discussion on data migration, and it is too much information. If the client is, or we are feeling on a client side, we're feeling lost. We don't know where to start. So with that context in mind, we start digging into this topic. Now, one of the first questions is, why should we care? Okay, the data has to be migrated in the new system. So what is the big deal about it? Why should we care? Why it is so important? So I'll cover three things just to explain and set the foundation of its importance. The first thing is, data is the blood of our organization. Doesn't matter which organization we work for, it is a blood of our organization. uh, to give some context on that statement, like in our body, leading and lagging indicators of our health is determined by a blood test. Similarly, data of any organization provide same leading and lagging indicators. So if we have got corrupt data, if we have got low quality data, the indicators will all be wrong and misleading, and most likely the organization is likely to be sick. So it is important for us to understand the importance of data irrespective of the organization we are serving. Secondly, data migration is complex. When someone asks, there are exist source systems, there may be more than one source system, and the destination system, which in this case is the new ERP. It is complex, expensive, and painful exercise to migrate data from the existing source system to the new system, and we'll unpack this in a little bit more detail. Thirdly, data migration is highly dull. Everyone wants to put it aside, because if you think about it, if we say, okay, clean customer data, the question is, what do we mean by cleansing? When we started doing cleansing, are we actually doing cleansing, or we are making it worse? How we are going to quantify how much cleansing is actually done? What are the guardrails? So like a simple thing which we say cleansing, it without structure, it doesn't go anywhere. And when we say it's done, again, these questions are valid questions, but just simply saying cleansing, uh, it doesn't lead much from the progress side. And for the people who are working on data migration, it is mind numbing, because they are changing, they are identifying all these discrepancies, and then they're fixing it, they're uploading it, they're seeking approvals. It's repetitive, it takes time, and it's dull, but it is equally important. And hence, this is one of the reason it is complex, it's expensive, we don't know where to start, and it is dull. We put it aside. Most organizations put it aside. We deal with this beast little later in the project, and failure starts to happen there and then. So the moment we delay, imagine the failure is creeping in. So what we have just established is that data migration is important. Data is important. It is much more complex. It is dull and mind numbing, but that shouldn't be a reason for us to put it aside. Now, few easy ways to deal with the data migration. So these are really, if we have a dedicated data migration team, then it's done. If we have got resources who are dedicated to data migration, they will do the job. You don't have to worry too much about it. The second thing is outsourcing. It is possible, it is a valid thing to outsource to an agency. They will migrate data or cleanse and migrate data on our behalf from a customer side, and there is nothing wrong with it. Or we can negotiate like a fixed price with the ERP vendor. So we can, while we are working and negotiating with the selection, we could agree on a fixed price for data migration because the ERP vendor may already have done similar tasks for other customers. So I do not want to put these points or skip these points. I think they are important points that there are ways to outsource this activity in different ways. We can hire a team, we can outsource to an agency, or we can negotiate a fixed price with the ERP vendor. They are valid scenarios which should be considered while we are implementing a ERP project. But it is expensive. All these three options cost money, and we always do not have that sort of leverage. But if we have extra cash or if we think there are returns on investment, these options should be considered seriously. Okay, now if for whatever reason you are considering these options, the rest of the session is not for you. So feel free to drop off. That's completely fine, because what we are going to cover in the rest of the session is really, we are on a client side. We don't have a leverage of capital where we can invest in these three options. That means we have a set team which we want to optimize and work on the data migration alongside with the ERP implementation. So let's get into it. Okay, so where we set right. So what we have done so far is we have established data migration is really important. It is dull and it takes time. It is complex. This is one reason why we put it aside. So, and there are three options to outsource the whole activity. They're all valid. However, in our instance, we don't have that capital to invest. Hence, we're doing it in-house for the resources we have. That's where we sit right now. Now, what we're going to cover is the fundamentals. So fundamentals of data migration. I'll cover each point like one by one, slow down. And on this foundation, we will set few pillars going forward. So the first one is not all data elements are equally important. So that means we do not need, as an example, customers, suppliers, chart of accounts, parts, everything doesn't have an equal importance at any point in time. When we start the project or ERP implementation, chart of accounts, we need the focus on, followed by other data elements. So not everything is equally important. That's one. That means we can set priorities. The data dependencies are real. So that's really important for us to understand. There is a set pattern. There is a set dependencies for us to understand to migrate data in new ERPs. And this is generally all that information is given by the ERP vendor. So we cannot randomly put parts in or customers in. There are certain sequence like a hard dependency. So, and all that data must follow certain sequence. That means, again, it gives us opportunity to prioritize what is important, what comes first, followed by the subsequent dependencies. The third one is not all data needs to be migrated. So we can make that conscious call to say, look, we are not going to migrate. This is just an example. We do not have to migrate all the historic data from last 10 years that can sit on a database which we can access when we need or for the tools we have. So that is not in scope. So in other words, we do not have to migrate the entire data set. So historic data is very common. This is like common knowledge. But the key message is there are multiple other things we can consider not to migrate, and these questions should be asked from a scope side. Then we move forward and say data can be cleaned and migrated post go live. And this is very common. We see assets data when we go live. If it is not close to the financial end, the assets data is cleansed and migrated after go live. It is very common. Month end can be similar. So everything has, the key message is everything doesn't have to be done at any given point on time. Things follow, so data migration follow a sequence, they follow dependency, and not everything is equally important. And the and we'll quickly cover the keywords following these fundamentals. Okay, now moving on, all data elements do not need to be cleansed equally. So that means not everything has to be at the same quality level. Chart of accounts is really vital. I want to get it approved, cleaned, properly embedded in the ERP. For parts information, I could choose that, okay, for the parts which my organization is using from last 5 years, I want to get it clean, signed off. Others, they can come later. For the customers and suppliers, I want to make sure my customers' data is very clean, very complete. Suppliers, maybe I want to deal with the suppliers which I have been dealing from last 5 years. Rest can come later. So I can make those decisions because everything doesn't have to be cleansed at the nth degree and be complete at the nth degree for the migration. So I can make those conscious calls because I do not have unlimited resources and time to do data migration. Then we cover data migration elements, which they are broad, they are deep, and they are scary sometimes. And it is really important for us to understand if and understand from an executive perspective for the people who are doing this work, we just have to be little more uh, conscious of the fact that this is really it is very deep and it is very broad, and it takes time. So we need to be patient with our team while they're working on this process. As an example, when we say customers data, it is not just a list of customers. It can be customers with the parent customers and subsidiaries. There may be multiple ship tos, there may be multiple contacts within each ship to, and all of the sudden customers, which we say is a customer table or customer data, it has now spread into multiple facets of parent customer where we are going to send bills to, or like bill to customer, subsidiaries, ship tos, contacts, and it can get complex with parts, suppliers, and so forth. So it can get very scary very quickly, and hence we should be patient with the team who's working on us with this. Uh, then we move to the scope. Without scope, everything is lost. So we have covered this like few times. So that means we must be able to draw a very clear boundaries. This is in scope, this is not in scope. As an example, all the historic transactions we covered, that is not in scope. We are not going to even touch about it. All the suppliers which we haven't dealt in last 5 years, not in scope. So if we can clearly draw the boundaries, we are going to be able to set priorities for our team. So everything is not equally important, and we can throw away a few things which are not in scope so we can focus on things that matter. And last but not least, it is really the data migration is a refinement activity. It is not a perfection activity. So that means if you are hearing from your team that, okay, I'm working and working, I'll do the complete list in 3 months time, you're hearing something, there is something fundamentally wrong. Instead, it should be iteration 1 this month, iteration 2 second month, and final iteration in the third month. And each iteration we improve, we fix, and then we continue that process. So sooner we start, better it is. But data migration is never about getting the complete list or complete cleansing. It is always about iteration. So each iteration we improve and find issues. So what we've just covered is fundamentals on which we are going to build the rest of the session. Let us quickly cover, there are some emerging themes you may be already hearing about it. So the key themes or keywords are uh, priority. So I'll just quickly cover this one before. So based upon the fundamentals we just covered, we have these emerging themes and keywords coming out of it. So when we say data migration, it is about priority. What is our priority? As an example, chart of accounts followed by parts, followed by customers, and then suppliers. And then I can put resources accordingly as well. Dependency is key, and there is certain way we put data in the new system. Scope is vital because there are certain things we are not doing it anyway. They can just be thrown out. We are not even talking about those. Ownership is where who is doing what, and we'll cover ownership in a bit more detail. For all these things to happen, we need a plan, and we should have a clarity on minimal viable product. That means when I say customers should be cleansed, what do I mean by cleansed? That definition should be clear. When I say suppliers must be migrated, this should be last 5 years and no more. So I have certain boundaries and have got quality and scope expectations, and that's what I mean by MVP, minimal viable product. So these are sort of themes that are coming out of these fundamentals of data migration, and this is really where our focus should be. Now, keeping these in mind, we ask ourselves, okay, what does that mean? So just have a quick glimpse of this. It means that we need a strategy. So I'm driving this from these themes now. We need strategy, we need schedule, we need ownership, we need tools, and we need governance. So these are vital points that I need so I am in control of data migration. And often we find these things are missing, or they are being done and they are collecting digital dust in the shared drives or SharePoint. Okay, let's quickly cover about strategy. When I say strategy, it sounds scary, but it is very simple. So when I say strategy of data migration, it is purely what is my purpose and what is my success criteria. So why I'm doing data migration and what is the success criteria for the data migration, what is in scope, what are the source and destination systems, what are the methods and tools I'll be using, when I'm going to do. So this is really the timing based upon the project schedule, when the chart of accounts is due, when the customer, suppliers, parts data is due, and who is doing what, that ownership part. As an example, this is pure, this is generally a document, but I'm trying to simplify just to prove it is not like a complex multi-page document. It is really, when I say purpose, it is clearly, this is my purpose. This is a measurable way of success, understanding if it is a success or not. So zero variance. When I scope, no historic transactional data. These are in scope, and these few things which are not in scope. These are the methods I'm using. This is my timing. This is who is doing what in the data migration space. So a few people are doing governance, others are doing technical work and coordination and so forth. So this strategy tells me that, okay, this is really from a game perspective, that is the purpose, who is playing which part, and what is in and out, and the methods and timing. So that's first. Based upon this strategy, we have a schedule or a plan, and I'll quickly cover this to say, okay, we have started a project in, say, is month one. We have an accountant who is allocated to do chart of accounts, and they have finalized the chart of accounts in month one. And we've got accounts receivable admin scheduled 10% of their time to work on data cleansing or customers data cleansing for 3 months, out of which we are going to map the customers data to migrate, like as a first mapping to the ERP in month 2. The first iteration where we are going to migrate the subset of customer data in the new ERP as iteration 1, iteration 2 in month 4, and the final production in month 6. So this is a simplified version of schedule, but the good thing is it tells us that all in all, month 1, I've got someone resource 10% of time. There is 3 months for cleansing. There is going to be busy month 2 and month 3, month 4 and month 6 or month 5. And this resource is available, which can help others for data migration. If we don't have it, we are running blind. And it sets a good baseline. If it may be that when we are planning this, we have underestimated or overestimated, but we can adjust our plan based upon what we know as we move forward. So that is like a second thing which we must have that will give us clarity as who is doing what and who owns which part of the data migration. Then we have the governance part, like simple RACI matrix, which is who is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. We all use that in projects, and similarly, we should have this for data migration as well. So in this example, the director of corporate services, like in a local government, I've got a chart of accounts, customer, suppliers. They are accountable to make sure they're going to sign off on these data elements. We have got different resources who are responsible to deliver this. They keep project manager and vendor informed. They must be consulting the director for infrastructure. Just an example, but it tells who should be consulted, who should be informed. So we have things in order. Again, so this sets clear ownership, and then we have got an example of governance where now we have got a strategy, schedule, RACI matrix. Now I can say, look, based upon my plan, imagine this is like a reporting coming in. So chart of accounts is 50% done. The owner is the accountant, and it is on track. There is no risk to the schedule. There's a minor risk here. And for the suppliers, I want to make sure that this is now escalated to the steer co, because this is going to be delaying the overall project. This is not on track, is a high risk. So again, some sort of governance, and this is possible only if we have a strategy, a plan, and the schedule, because we have a baseline against which we are measuring. If we don't have that, then it is this governance piece is just an imagination. Everything can be off or on track based upon the mood of the people who are, how much they are panicking because we don't have a baseline. Okay, so what we have just built is we started with fundamentals. We moved into the key themes, and then we established we must have a strategy, we must have a schedule, a clear ownership, and proper governance. So this will help us do the job properly when it comes to data migration because of the complexities of data migration. Okay, we're going to conclude now, and then we'll open for the discussion. So closing thoughts are these. Firstly, data migration, as we have already seen, it is not a task. It is not a simple task of migrating data from one place to another. It is a discipline. It needs strategy. It needs plan. It needs ownership and governance. And there are different skills required, which are technical, business focused, and coordination. So it is a discipline, not a simple task. The second one is that it starts before the projects. What we see is generally data migration starts mid-project, late in the project, and then it delays the whole project. It must start before the project, if not at the start of the project, but sooner the better. The third is really the most efficient way for us to execute data migration and win this game is to do proper planning. We have limited resources. The optimal use of resources is going to define the success of the data migration. So it doesn't, and this is again, the plan will have a clarity on the scope. It will have who is doing what. It is going to give us the maximum benefit for the limited resources we have. So I hope that sinks in and resonates with the people on the call. That's the end of the topic, and we'll stop sharing now, and we'll jump for the discussion. So thank you all. I'm sure I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay. Any thoughts, questions, challenges, experiences?
Yeah, no, I think it's good SP that you called it out as sort of a project that fits in that pre-implementation part. I must admit, it's an element that could have been improved in a number of the projects I was in by taking it on early rather than waiting for a vendor. There were two elements which I think maybe would help as well, which is change management comes into it. So impact analysis of codes, let's say for purchasing, staff who are going to have to purchase with new job structures, new chart of account structures. So a bit of change management and an impact analysis in your change log will assist. The other thing which you didn't specifically allude to is those dependencies. So those operational reports might be a monthly report. That may well be your target, or you may well be implementing your ERP because your reports aren't giving you what you want at the moment. So again, there's more elements that come out of this. It's a worthy sub project, and then also the dependencies for integrated systems as well. If you're receipting from two different systems, then they must match and not cause confusion. So no, I think it's a good topic to open up, and I think it has an awful lot of value, particularly if it's treated as a sub-project that has its own sort of RAID, the risk actions, decisions. At some stage, decisions have to be made by that sponsor or of this project, and generally when you're in the implementation cycle, time is precious. So yeah, no, I just commend you for just opening up the topic. I think it's a valuable topic.
Thank you, Kiran. Yeah, well, I agree with you. Change management, operational reporting, and there can be complexities because of multiple source systems and integrations related to it, and it can really make things even more complex if we do not consider at the very start of the project. Good points.
Yeah,
Thank you.
One of the things I saw that was of real value, which I saw done well in a recent project, is chart of accounts, old to new, mapping tools that were put on an intranet site so that people could find that really accessible, who are only maybe touching the project down the, late in the implementation. You're coming in at the training sort of activities and a little bit of change management there too. But what's valuable is to sort of give that clarity and demystify for a larger, broader audience, so that you actually allow people to get up and operate a little bit quicker than they could.
That's great. Thank you, Kieran. Any other thoughts?
I'm interested to hear from Nicholas. You obviously have a bit of tool and capability in this space. I'm certainly hitting the topic cold in terms of building things up from level one. Is there something we're missing on the tool side and automation side that's staring us in the face as an opportunity?
Well, I quite like SP's approach. I think a lot of people focus on the kind of technical aspect and some of the things that you're asking about, the tools and how to do it and what needs to be done. And I think you can go too quickly into that sphere. And if you haven't done all the things that SP has talked about in terms of planning and what are the resources and what are the dependencies, et cetera, then you kind of lose sight of those things. And yeah, you can just be too focused on just the data. And therefore you lose the change management aspect that you talked about. You say, like SB is talking about, okay, well, if we're going to prioritize data and historical data, we're not going to bring across. Oh, so all those Power BI reports that have 2 years of history or 3 years of history are now going to be empty. Yeah, if you're just focusing on purely, I need to move the data, I need to fix the data, how do I get into the new thing, but you haven't done all these other aspects around it, then I think you A, think it's going to be a smaller task than what it is, and B, you do end up doing these iterations as SP has talked about, but I think you end up doing them chasing your tail. You're kind of trying to catch up as opposed to having planned from the beginning. As far as kind of tools and those kinds of things, I think it's obviously involving the right kind of people and making sure that even if they have to learn things along the way, that you can have the people that understand conceptually what you're trying to do and what the whole project in terms of data transformation looks like. And so that they understand conceptually what they're trying to do, so that when they actually try and execute it, or they get other people to help them to execute it, that it can be, there's a kind of reference point of what that success looks like and what they're trying to achieve, and making sure that they don't get lost in the data and trying to do too much or things that aren't required. So I think so those are the kind of challenges and what I've seen from SP's presentation today.
Yeah, thanks, Nicholas. And I think what I hear in general is tools tends to be many now. We like 5 years ago, or even 2 to 3 years ago, there was not much when it comes to cleansing. With AI and the tools which are built up on AI, we have got influx of tools which can really add a lot of value and move things quickly. But if we have again, I think we all agree that the foundations must be in place. Tools appears to be many, like there are quite a few which I hear now and then, and it's a good thing. So it makes things quicker and more reliable. Okay. Anything, Chris, you'd like to share? Cedric, John?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, your point on scope, defining the scope clearly is probably the most fundamental foundation. I mean, part of scope is discovery, understanding what your data currently does before you actually start cleaning, so that you get the right scope. And, there's been some fairly monumental stuff ups of projects, in the past 10 years, where scope has not been defined, properly. And probably one of the biggest one was the government shared services program that Department of Treasury and Finance used to run. And they did not define, what their data does and define the scope before they actually tried to change. And several $1 million later, the project's canned.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I take you back to government, data cleansing. The Scottish government did back in 2006 a major ERP, and they actually spent a year just understanding what their data does and creating the scope before they started the whole data cleansing and transition. It's not to underestimate that scope that you mentioned, SP, as being so critical, because only then can you actually define the value of what you're about to do in cleansing and potentially actually achieve the organizational budget to do the data cleansing. So get that scope right, understand what you've got, and don't believe it's right. I always remember BMW Automotive globally actually saying they were changing to a human resource ERP, and they're saying, well, we've got everybody's data right because everybody gets paid. So it's absolutely perfect. They switched on the new ERP and instantly stopped everybody globally getting paid. Because all the data was wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
So scope.
Yes. No, I agree. And I think it's it's related to starting this journey as early as soon as possible, because midway in the project when everyone is panicking, it's not feasible even to talk about scope. It's just get all hands on deck sort of thing, and that's where I think everything is screwed, because we're just rushing it through, assuming that more hands on deck will speed up things, but they don't, again, because we're doing stuff just randomly, things which are not even should be touched. It's just random stuff, doesn't add any value. Thank you for that, Chris. Great. I think we are on time. So if there is anyone want to share anything else, otherwise we'll wrap up and we'll thank you all. Last call before we hang up.
Yeah, and just one thing. Interesting that you didn't have it in your slides, but project after project, there's an element in there after chart of accounts, which is your job structure and your how you divide up your capital and revenue, which is always forgotten, and it's always underestimated, and the knowledge always resides within the client organization, so I think it's an interesting topic, a very interesting topic, because there's plenty of room for improvement that had been forewarned of these little traps that every project falls into. There's a very broad space there for a method to actually break these things down and develop that outline strategy that allows for, well, I represent a very small organization. At the moment, I'm in the Chara Colley. Resources are very limited, and that makes these projects, they're difficult, and there's a bit of a certain inertia around it. But I think there definitely is a gap for a templated approach to data migration and cleansing and to develop strategies around where your source of truth is for historic data, whether you actually have a strategy to even attempt to bring data forward from one system to another. I mean, like, why are you replacing it? So I think more attention to this topic, to actually delve into it and actually help small organizations like ourselves, would be highly valuable.
That's great. Now, point well noted, Kieran. Something to ponder on from my side and see how we can have a templated approach to which is repeatable for medium and small organizations. Thank you, Kieran. All right. I think that's all. So thank you all for joining in. And again, we'll share the meeting notes and the slide deck recording on our website. So you'll receive an email. If you can please spare half a minute for your feedback. So Harley will send that shortly. So thank you all again, and
Thank you.
please join the upcoming sessions. Thank you all.